Humanity had always been underestimated. Across the galaxy, alien empires whispered about Earth's people with quiet amusement. Primitive, they called them. Weak. Inefficient. Yet here they were on the edge of the galaxy, staring at the stars with a calm no enemy could understand. Humanity had survived wars, plagues, and countless disasters. They had endured hardships that would have broken other civilizations. And now, for the first time, the galaxy would see the full strength of their resolve. Admiral Kale walked slowly along the metallic corridors of the flagship Resolute. The ship hummed with life, a living testament to human engineering and determination. Crew members moved with purpose, checking weapons, tightening belts, and whispering quiet prayers. Every face he passed told a story: fear, hope, courage, and a fierce desire to survive. Kyle's own chest tightened as he looked at them. He had led many missions before, but none like this. None that carried the weight of all humanity. Far beyond the reach of human light, the Zalrith awaited. Their fleet stretched across the void like a river of black steel, gleaming under distant suns. The aliens were organized, ruthless, and confident. They believed that when they attacked Earth's fleets, humanity would crumble like a paper fortress in a storm. They had blinked once at Earth's warnings. They had laughed, and in that instant, they had sealed their fate. Back on the Resolute, Kale entered the command deck. The room was alive with blinking lights, holographic maps, and the low hum of energy shields. Officers tapped their controls, running simulations, scanning the void for any sign of the enemy. The tension was almost tangible, but no one let it show. Fear had no place here. Only focus. Only determination. Kale paused in front of the main display. The stars beyond looked cold, indifferent, but to him, they were a battlefield. His mind drifted for a moment to Earth, the blue planet spinning silently in space, home to billions of people who had never fired a weapon in anger. It was for them, for their families, for their children, that he and his crew would fight. The thought strengthened him. He had always believed humans could survive anything, but now he would prove that humanity could dominate even when the odds were impossible. "Admiral," a young officer said, breaking his reverie, "all ships report ready. Weapons charged. Shields at maximum. Fleet is in formation." Kyle nodded, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Good, let them come. Let them see what humans can do." Outside the ship, the human fleet glimmered like a constellation of determination. Old warships lined up alongside the newest vessels, a mix of iron and technology, fire and steel. Each ship carried a crew who had trained for this moment their entire lives. No one had promised them glory. No one had guaranteed safety. They were here because humanity demanded survival, because they refused to be second best in a galaxy that had never truly respected them. As the minutes ticked by, the void grew quiet. Too quiet. Then the first signal appeared, a faint ripple in space, a warning of what was coming. The Zalrith fleet was moving, precise and deliberate. Their ships glimmered black, moving with the certainty of predators who had never encountered prey that could fight back. Kale's hand rested on the edge of the console. He breathed slowly, letting the weight of the moment settle in. The calm before the storm was always the hardest part. In the silence of space, he felt the pulse of every human life aboard, every hope and dream that depended on them. He felt the responsibility crushing him, but also the fire of determination. Humanity would not just survive. Humanity would make the galaxy remember. He turned to his crew, his voice steady and full of authority. "Tonight we show the galaxy who we are. Tonight we prove that humans are not weak. Tonight we fight, not just for victory but for the right to exist for every life that depends on us. The enemy thinks we are small, that we are fragile. They will blink once and they will regret it." The crew straightened, a ripple of resolve passing through them. Every heart on the Resolute beat in unison. Outside stars waited, indifferent and eternal. But humanity's battle fleet shone bright, a silent promise. They would not bow, they would not falter, and they would never be forgotten. And then, the darkness of space stirred. The calm ended. The storm was coming. The silence of space shattered like glass when the Zalrith fleet opened fire. Dark streaks of energy cut across the void, slamming into human ships with precision. The Resolute shuddered as shields flared, warning sirens screaming in response. Explosions erupted in the distance, painting the blackness of space with bursts of fire and debris. The calm humanity had felt just moments ago was gone, replaced by chaos, fear, and the roar of battle. Yet the humans did not panic, not one of them. Pilots gritted their teeth, gripping controls with a white-knuckled determination. Engineers ran along the corridors, repairing systems in real time, their hands moving with practiced urgency. Every crew member knew their role. Every life depended on another. Amid the chaos, Admiral Kale stood tall on the bridge, eyes fixed on the holographic display showing enemy positions. His voice cut through the comms, steady and commanding. "Hold your lines. Fire when ready. Humanity survives because we fight." The words were simple, but they carried the weight of 1,000 battles. Each ship in the human fleet responded. Lasers streaked through the darkness, missiles launched in synchronized waves, and fighters darted between ships like shadows. The humans were smaller, yes, but they were fast, clever, and willing to risk everything. On the front lines, Captain Mira of the frigate Vanguard gritted her teeth as her ship shook under a direct hit. Smoke curled from the engine core, but she refused to yield. "Keep firing. Don't let them see fear." Her crew obeyed, directing their cannons toward the nearest Zalrith cruiser. In a burst of coordinated precision, a single missile hit the alien ship's core. A blinding explosion engulfed it, tearing it apart. The Zalrith blinked once in shock, one moment alive, the next gone. The humans cheered briefly, though the noise was swallowed by the roar of battle. Every victory came at a cost. Ships were damaged, crews injured, and the distant flash of exploding vessels reminded them of their vulnerability. Kale watched the human fleet with pride and sorrow intertwined. Each life lost was a tragedy, but each victory proved something the galaxy had never believed. Humanity was not weak. As the battle continued, the Zalrith adjusted their tactics. They were intelligent, organized, and deadly. They attempted to outflank human squadrons, to trap them in impossible positions. But humans adapted quickly. Fighter pilots trained for improvisation and rapid response, weaved through enemy fire, drawing them into ambushes. Torpedoes guided by human intuition struck with perfect timing, shattering alien ships. Every move was a test of courage, every decision a gamble with lives at stake. Amid the explosions, Kale's mind was a calm center. He calculated, predicted, and directed. He knew that this battle was more than survival. It was a message. Humanity had endured hardships that no other species could imagine. Earth had seen plagues, wars, natural disasters, and yet the species thrived. And now, against a galaxy that doubted them, they would strike back with every ounce of strength and courage. In one particularly dangerous maneuver, a human destroyer was surrounded, weapons disabled. The crew braced for annihilation, hearts pounding. Kale's voice came through the comm. "You are not alone. Focus. Fire now." In perfect synchronization, nearby frigates launched a counterstrike. The alien ships were obliterated, the human crew surviving against impossible odds. Still, the cost was heavy. The Resolute recorded each casualty, each ship lost to the void. Kale's chest tightened as he noted names and faces. Young pilots who had never seen a home planet beyond Earth. Engineers who had built these weapons with trembling hands. Each life mattered, and yet the enemy demanded they risk everything. Hours felt like days. The battle raged across the edge of the galaxy, turning stars into mirrors of fire, but gradually the tide began to turn. Humans, though smaller in number, fought with strategy, courage, and relentless determination. Their unity and adaptability became their greatest weapon. One by one, Zalrith ships fell, blinked out of existence. Humanity's fleet, battered and bleeding, pressed forward, refusing to yield an inch of space to the arrogant alien fleet. Amid the chaos, Kale allowed himself a brief private thought. They underestimated us. They never imagined the strength of humans when their backs are against the void. And they will pay for that mistake. The first strike had ended, but the war had just begun. Humanity had survived the opening salvo, and the galaxy would begin to see what it truly meant when humans fought not for conquest, not for glory, but for survival, for home, and for the right to exist. The aftermath of the first strike was a bitter mixture of triumph and sorrow. The stars, once calm and distant, now glimmered with fire and debris. Humanity had survived the opening salvo, but the cost was painfully clear. Entire squadrons of human ships had been lost. Pilots who had trained for years, engineers who had built the fleet with their own hands were gone, leaving empty chairs and silent consoles behind. Admiral Kale stood on the bridge of the Resolute, his jaw tight, his eyes scanning the holographic display. Each red marker represented a fallen ship, each one a life extinguished in the void. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Every life lost was a wound on his soul, but even in grief he could not allow despair to take hold. Humanity had to survive. Humanity had to fight. Captain Mira, still aboard the Vanguard, looked out at the battlefield. Smoke curled from her damaged engines and her hands shook from exhaustion, but she refused to yield. "We honor them by continuing," she whispered to her crew. Her words carried the weight of courage, and the young pilots beside her nodded, wiping tears from their faces before returning to their stations. Each one understood the stakes. Each one understood that courage was not the absence of fear, it was acting in spite of it. The Zalrith, sensing the human fleet faltering, tried to press their advantage. They were organized, relentless, and cold. Their attacks came in waves, targeting human ships with surgical precision. Explosions rippled across the fleet as hulls were torn apart, and Kale could hear the faint cries of wounded crew members over the comms. The smell of burnt circuitry and the sound of alarms created a grim symphony, reminding everyone that war was never clean, never easy. Yet, humans adapted. They learned quickly, improvising strategies in the midst of chaos. Engineers patched shields while fighters drew the enemy into ambushes. The humans fought not just with weapons but with intelligence, instinct, and determination. Each strike, each maneuver was a testament to the resilience of a species that refused to be underestimated. On the Resolute, Kale made a decision that weighed heavily on him. He ordered a risky maneuver. A small group of ships would flank the enemy, drawing fire and creating an opening for the rest of the fleet. The crew hesitated, knowing the danger, but Kale's voice carried a calm authority. "We do this for everyone who cannot fight. We do this for Earth. Trust in each other. Trust in yourselves." The flanking squadron moved into the void, weaving through enemy fire like shadows. Explosions lit the darkness, each one a reminder of the fine line between life and death. Pilots risked everything, some never returning. Yet their bravery allowed the main fleet to press forward, striking critical targets and turning the tide of battle. Even in the midst of chaos, moments of humanity shone through. A medic aboard a damaged transport stayed behind to rescue injured soldiers, ignoring orders to retreat. Two young pilots covered each other as their ship faltered, their bond stronger than fear. Each act of courage, no matter how small, reminded everyone why humanity would endure. Kale watched these acts unfold with a mixture of pride and sorrow. He whispered to himself, "Every life lost fuels our fight. Every heart that beats gives us strength." He understood that this battle was not just about defeating the enemy, it was about showing the galaxy the heart of humanity. As the battle continued, the human fleet began to push the Zalrith back. Alien ships blinked out one by one, their confidence shaken by the unyielding courage of humans. Each victory was small but significant, each loss a painful reminder of what was at stake. The fleet pressed on, driven by determination, skill, and the memory of those who had fallen. By the end of the day, silence began to settle across the battlefield. Smoke drifted through the void, and damaged ships limped back to repair stations. Humanity had survived the first day of war, but the scars were deep. Every life lost, every ship destroyed was a reminder of the price of courage. Yet in their hearts the humans knew they had done more than survive. They had proven something to the galaxy. Kyle stood on the bridge, staring at the stars, and spoke softly to himself. We may bleed, we may fall, but we will rise, and the galaxy will remember that humans do not break, do not bow, and do not surrender. And somewhere, beyond the wreckage of battle, the Zalrith began to realize that they had underestimated humanity. The fight was far from over, but one truth was already clear. Humans fought with a courage and spirit that no alien arrogance could extinguish. The void of space trembled as the battle continued. The Zalrith, once confident, were beginning to falter. Their fleet, though vast and well-armed, was rigid and predictable. Humanity, battered but unbroken, had learned their enemies' patterns, and in the heart of the human fleet, Admiral Kale saw the opportunity to turn the tide. The enemy's command ship emerged from the shadows, a colossal vessel pulsing with energy. It was the heart of the Zalrith fleet, a living fortress that coordinated attacks and maintained their deadly formations. Its appearance caused a ripple of fear across the human fleet, but Kale's face remained calm. Fear had no place here. Only strategy, only courage. We can draw it in, Kale said quietly to his officers, his voice steady and certain. We split the fleet. A small squadron will act as bait. The rest will flank from both sides. Precision, timing, courage, that is how we win. The officers hesitated for a moment, knowing the risk. Sending ships as bait meant risking lives, possibly losing brave crews in an instant. But Kale's authority was unshakable. We do this for every human who has ever been counted out, he said. For Earth, for our people. We do this because we must. The squadron moved forward, small ships darting like sparks through the endless darkness. Their engines flared as the Zalrith command ship targeted them, firing massive energy beams that could obliterate entire vessels in a single strike. The human pilots dodged, weaving with skill born from years of training, luring the enemy closer to the trap. On the Resolute, Kale watched every movement, every calculation in real time. He knew the risks. One misstep could mean disaster. But he also knew the strength of his people. Humans adapted, thought creatively, and thrived under pressure. The Zalrith, for all their technology and power, had never faced an enemy willing to take impossible risks for survival. The trap was set. From both flanks, human frigates and destroyers emerged from the shadows, firing torpedoes and missiles with deadly accuracy. The Zalrith command ship blinked, attempting evasive maneuvers, but the humans anticipated each move. Explosions rocked the void as waves of fire collided with the alien vessel. Its energy shields flickered, sparks dancing across its surface. Captain Mira, leading one flank, gritted her teeth as her ship dove through debris and fire. "Hold the line. Don't let them escape," she yelled. Her pilots responded with skill and bravery, striking the enemy from angles they never expected. Each strike was precise, each movement deliberate. The humans had learned the rhythm of the Zalrith, and now they led the dance of death. The battle was a storm of chaos and brilliance. Ships collided, lasers streaked across the darkness, and explosions lit the stars. Yet amidst the turmoil, a strange order emerged. Humanity's courage, ingenuity, and unity became their most powerful weapons. They moved as one, reacting, adapting, and striking with deadly efficiency. Finally, the command ship blinked in desperation, attempting a sudden jump to escape the trap. Kale's eyes narrowed. "Now!" he shouted. The Resolute fired its most powerful salvo. Missiles streaked through space, hitting the command ship with perfect timing. The vessel erupted in fire, a massive explosion that sent debris scattering across the void. The Zalrith fleet, leaderless and disoriented, began to collapse. Their formations broke, their ships fled in chaos, and the humans pressed their advantage relentlessly. One by one, alien vessels blinked out of existence, victims of precise strikes, cunning tactics, and the unwavering courage of humanity. As the dust settled, the human fleet regrouped. The cost had been high, ships damaged, lives lost, but the turning point was clear. Humanity had proven that they were not just survivors. They were warriors, capable of thinking, adapting, and striking when the odds seemed impossible. Cale looked out at the battlefield, his heart heavy with the weight of every life lost but proud of every life that had fought. "We've shown them who we are," he said softly. "They counted us out, but they underestimated our will. Humanity never surrenders. Humanity never blinks." In the silence that followed, the stars seemed to shimmer with the echo of human courage. The tide of battle had shifted, and the Zalrith, once arrogant and confident, had tasted the full strength of human determination. The war was far from over, but one truth was undeniable. The galaxy would never again doubt the resilience and ingenuity of humanity. And somewhere deep in the void, the enemy realized that they were facing a species that fought not just with weapons, but with heart, spirit, and unbreakable courage. The void was filled with tension. Every ship in the human fleet had felt the weight of the last engagement, and now the enemy's movements grew frantic. The Zalrith command ship, the core of their fleet, had been destroyed, and the alien vessels moved like scattered shadows, leaderless and confused. But humans did not pause. They pressed forward, relentless, knowing that hesitation could cost them everything. Admiral Cale stood on the bridge of the Resolute, eyes locked on the battlefield. He had seen fear, courage, and determination all mingling in the fleet. Each human pilot, each crew member knew that this was the moment that could end the war. His hand hovered over the control console, ready to release humanity's final strike. "Hold steady," he ordered. "Wait for the moment. Precision is everything." And then it happened. The Zalrith, desperate and cornered, attempted a blink, a teleportation jump meant to save their remaining ships. It was a move born of panic. One moment, the command ship would have vanished. The next, it would reappear light years away, escaping human fire. Cale's voice cut through the comms like steel. "Now!" The human fleet responded instantly. Missiles streaked through the void, guided by both AI and human intuition. Converging on the exact location the Zalrith ship would reappear. Explosions erupted in brilliant fireballs, tearing the enemy vessel apart before it could complete its jump. The ship blinked once, and then it was gone forever, obliterated in a flash of human ingenuity and courage. The remaining Zalrith ships, seeing their leader destroyed, lost cohesion. Their formations fractured, and panic rippled through the fleet. Humans, though fewer in number, were organized, relentless, and adaptive. Fighter squadrons swooped in. Frigates launched torpedoes, and destroyers rained fire on the disorganized enemy. Each strike was precise, each maneuver a lesson in human creativity under pressure. Captain Mira of the Vanguard shouted to her squadron, "Push forward, no mercy!" They thought we were weak. "Show them we are not." Her words ignited a fire in her pilots. They darted through the chaos, weaving between explosions, striking alien vessels with deadly precision. One by one, Zalrith ships blinked out of existence, victims of tactics and courage they had never anticipated. Yet the cost of victory weighed heavily. Human ships were damaged, and many crews had fallen. The cries of the wounded echoed through comms, a stark reminder that even triumph demanded sacrifice. Cale allowed himself a moment to feel the grief, to honor the lives lost before pushing it aside. There was no time for sorrow, not yet. Humanity had a war to finish. The battlefield became a testament to human adaptability. Where the Zalrith relied on rigid strategies, humans improvised. Ships used debris as cover. Pilots created decoys, and engineers patched weapons mid-battle. Every action was a combination of instinct, intellect, and courage. The aliens had underestimated humans' ability to learn and strike with precision, and that mistake was now costing them dearly. Amid the chaos, Cale felt a surge of pride. He thought of Earth, the home planet that had produced such relentless fighters. He thought of the young pilots barely old enough to vote who risked everything without hesitation. He thought of every crew member who had stood firm in the face of fear. Humanity's heart, he realized, was stronger than any alien fleet. As the battle reached its climax, the human fleet executed a coordinated strike on the last clusters of Zalrith ships. Explosions lit the void like distant stars, illuminating the battlefield with the brilliance of human resolve. The Zalrith blinked again, but there was nowhere left to go. One by one they were erased from the stars, leaving only silence in their wake. When the last enemy ship was destroyed, a hush fell over the human fleet. The void seemed impossibly quiet after the roar of combat. Pilots and crew looked at each other with a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and awe. They had done the impossible. Humanity had faced a superior enemy, and through courage, ingenuity, and unity they had prevailed. Cale stood on the bridge, staring at the stars. "They blinked once," he said softly, voice trembling with emotion, "and humanity erased them from the stars. Let the galaxy remember this day. Let them remember who we are. We fight not just for survival, but for every life that depends on us, and we will never be underestimated again." Somewhere in the wreckage of battle, human medics tended to the wounded. Engineers repaired damaged ships. Pilots took a moment to breathe, to feel the weight of what they had accomplished. Humanity had survived, yes, but more than survival. They had proven that their spirit was indomitable, their courage unmatched, and their unity unbreakable. The stars, once cold and indifferent, now seemed to shine in tribute to the fleet. Humanity had carved its name into the galaxy, not with arrogance but with bravery, sacrifice, and an unyielding determination to endure. The enemy had blinked once, and humanity had rewritten the rules of the stars. The battlefield was quiet now, but the silence was heavy. Stars sparkled coldly in the distance, oblivious to the destruction that had occurred. Wreckage of Zalrith ships floated in the void, blackened and shattered. Among the debris, human ships drifted, many damaged, many carrying the wounded. Humanity had survived, but the cost had been high. Lives were lost, and the echoes of bravery and sacrifice hung over the fleet like a solemn shadow. Admiral Kyle walked through the corridors of the Resolute, past the wounded and the exhausted, past engineers working tirelessly to repair systems and medics tending to the injured. Every face told a story. Some were triumphant, some grief-stricken, and some simply stunned that they had survived a battle that seemed impossible. Each one carried a piece of the victory, but also the weight of loss. Captain Mira leaned against a railing on her ship, staring at the wreckage drifting by. Tears glistened in her eyes, but she did not wipe them away. "We've done it," she whispered softly to her second-in-command. "We survived, and we fought with everything we had." Her voice trembled, carrying pride and sorrow together. The pilots and crew around her nodded silently. They had witnessed horrors, yet their courage had endured. The human fleet began to regroup, forming protective formations as engineers repaired engines and weapons. Even in the aftermath, humanity did not falter. Every ship, every crew, every life was a reminder of what they were capable of. They had stood against a superior enemy and emerged victorious, not because of sheer numbers, but because of courage, ingenuity, and the will to survive. Kyle addressed the fleet over the comms, his voice steady but heavy with emotion. "Today we have shown the galaxy what it means to be human. Every life lost, every ship destroyed is a reminder of the price we pay for survival. But we have endured. We have proven that humanity does not bow, does not flee, and does not surrender. We fight for each other, for our home, and for the right to exist. Let this be remembered." His words carried across the fleet, reaching every pilot, every engineer, every medic, and every soldier. A quiet pride settled over them, tempered by grief. The humans who had survived were not unscathed. They were tired, wounded, and forever changed. But they had faced death and stared it down without flinching. They had protected each other, defended their home, and carved their place in the stars. Among the debris, small rescue teams worked tirelessly. Pilots rescued comrades trapped in wrecked vessels. Medics risked exposure to space debris to reach the injured. Engineers patched shields and engines while enemy remnants drifted nearby, wary but powerless. Humanity's spirit was unbroken. They cared for each other even after the fight, proving that their strength lay not just in weapons but in heart. Kale moved to the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The galaxy was silent, but it would not remain ignorant of what had occurred. The Zalrith had blinked once and humanity had erased them from the stars. Yet Kale knew the importance of humility. Victory carried sorrow as well as pride. Every life lost was a story that would never be forgotten. Humanity had endured, yes, but they had paid a price for it. In the quiet of the aftermath, the crew of the Resolute shared a moment of reflection. Some spoke softly of lost friends, of dreams never realized, and of homes they might never see again. Others found solace in the small triumphs, the lives they had saved, and the courage they had witnessed in one another. Humanity had survived against impossible odds, and they were stronger for it. Kale whispered to himself, a vow carried in the silence. We will remember them. Every one of them. And we will continue to fight, continue to endure, and continue to show the galaxy that humans are not to be underestimated. The fleet slowly began its journey home, each ship a testament to resilience, courage, and unyielding spirit. Humanity had survived the impossible, endured the unbearable, and emerged victorious. The Zalrith may have underestimated them, but the galaxy would remember. Humanity had made its stand, and the stand was one no enemy could ever ignore. As the stars stretched endlessly ahead, the human fleet shone bright, not with arrogance, not with conquest, but with the quiet pride of survival, the strength of unity, and the courage of hearts that refused to break. Humanity's stand had been made. The galaxy would never forget it. The battlefield was silent now. The void of space stretched endlessly, filled with floating debris, shattered ships, and echoes of a war that would be remembered forever. Humanity's fleet had survived. The Zalrith, once arrogant and confident, had been erased from the stars. And yet victory was not a celebration, it was a quiet, solemn moment heavy with the weight of sacrifice and courage. Admiral Kale stood on the bridge of the Resolute, looking at the stars that seemed brighter after the chaos. Each speck of light reminded him of the lives lost, the battles fought, and the courage that had carried humanity through the impossible. The fleet behind him, battered but alive, was a testament to human resilience. Each crew member carried the memory of comrades who had fallen, their sacrifice a permanent part of this victory. Captain Mira watched the stars from her ship's observation deck, her hands trembling slightly. "We did it," she whispered. Not because it was easy, not because it was simple, but because they had survived, endured, and fought with everything they had. The fleet had pushed beyond fear, beyond doubt, and had proven that humanity was a force the galaxy could not ignore. Messages began to flow across the fleet, reports of survivors, rescue operations, and repairs in progress. Even in the quiet aftermath, humanity did not rest. Every crew member worked tirelessly to save lives, patch ships, and secure the remnants of the battlefield. The courage that had burned in combat now shone in acts of care, of humanity caring for humanity, even after the storm. Kyle's mind drifted briefly to Earth. Millions of lives were waiting for news, for reassurance that their children, parents, and loved ones had survived. They would hear the stories of the battle, of courage that defied imagination, and of a species that had stared down annihilation and refused to blink. Humanity's story was not just about firepower or strategy. It was about heart, spirit, and an unbreakable will to endure. In the silence of space, Kyle allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. He remembered the young pilots who had braved impossible odds, the engineers who had worked through chaos to keep ships alive, and the medics who had risked everything to save their comrades. Each life lost weighed heavily on him, but each act of bravery strengthened his resolve. Humanity was more than a species. It was a force of resilience, courage, and unity. As the fleet began its journey home, Kale addressed the crew one final time over the comms. His voice was steady, strong, yet filled with emotion. "Today we have carved our place in the stars. The enemy blinked once and humanity erased them. We have shown the galaxy that we are not weak, that we do not falter, and that we fight not for glory but for survival, for our people, and for the right to exist. Let this day be remembered. Let the galaxy know that humans endure, adapt, and conquer when all seems lost. A quiet cheer rippled through the fleet. Not loud, not boisterous, but full of pride, relief, and the recognition of what had been accomplished. Humanity had faced annihilation, and had not only survived but had demonstrated the true power of courage and unity. The galaxy would never again see humans as insignificant, weak, or defenseless. Cale turned to the observation window, watching the stars stretch endlessly before them. Somewhere beyond the remnants of battle, civilizations would whisper of Earth's people. They would tell of pilots who risked everything, of ships that survived impossible attacks, of engineers and medics who refused to let fear rule their actions. They would tell the story of humanity, a species that, when pushed to the brink, rose higher, fought harder, and burned brighter than anything in the galaxy. The Resolute and the rest of the fleet sailed onward, battered but proud, carrying with them the memory of every life lost and every victory earned. Humanity's legacy was no longer a quiet whisper in the corner of the galaxy. It was a declaration, a warning, and a promise. Humans fought not just to survive, but to thrive, to endure, and to remind the universe that no enemy, no matter how powerful, could ever truly extinguish their spirit. And in the calm that followed, Cale whispered softly to himself a vow and a truth. We fight because we are human. We endure because we must, and the galaxy will remember us not for our fear but for our courage, our heart, and our unbreakable will. The stars stretched endlessly, and humanity's fleet shone like a beacon in the darkness. A legacy had been written in fire, courage, and sacrifice, a legacy that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. Humanity had survived, humanity had triumphed, and humanity had reminded the universe of one unshakable truth. Never underestimate humans.